I had one. 6 a.m. I don't know. I've been in my office.
Mr. Smith, is Roy going to be here? Okay. Doug's here. Okay. Well, give Maria a chance to get her food and get out here.
Hello.
Howdy, baby.
Me too. Right now. Here you go. Give me a message when you need to go. It's kind of hard, you have to tell him. I know. I don't have one month. But, at least that.
All right, we got everybody in here now, so let's go ahead and call the city council, city manager work session to order. Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you. We're gonna kind of jump back into looking at the council rules. And so this is number 3, the third section. We'll be going back through again because there was some discussion of changes in the first couple. And so I just thought if we could get through all of it one time, then we'll go back through and look at some of the proposed changes. We've done some research on some of the items that were brought forward in those first 2 sections already, but we'll just keep going. So council meeting agenda. So this has the language in it that was talked about as far as so it designates the city manager preparing the council meeting agenda, and then basically instructing us to provide you an agenda so many days before the meeting, and then preparing all the items. The last paragraph is an addition to show how a council member that wanted to get something on that maybe staff wasn't as interested in. We'll just say that. Because most of the time we try to accommodate those requests, but there may be some things that we wouldn't necessarily agree with a single member of the council about. And so this sets up a process where a majority, that's at the meeting, so have a member could have a meeting added then with a vote of the council. Let's see. So then prior to a meeting, that must come a little further down, but prior to a meeting, a council member would need support of an additional 2 counselors if they wanted to add something to the agenda and have it, posted and everything. So that's we've looked at it, council rules for a number of different cities, and that was kind of a common procedure of some some level of more than one council member, not necessarily the three, but we kind of looked at that as kind of it was kind of reflected in some other items within the rules, and so we just have recommended three. But I'd be open to hear what the council has thoughts about that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So an example of this would be anything that's not currently on the agenda or coming up on the agenda could be brought up. Since we just had recently an experience where we needed to have an option to direct staff to draft an ordinance to rescind, or that's the wrong terminology, but you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Under a circumstance like that, would that also need to be with the meet under the 3 counselor petition option?
I think that one would be handled more under how the council rules, you know, using the motions to handle that in the meeting or in the next meeting, depending on how that happened. It would be more like,
You know, it had to be an action item.
yeah, let's say the council, a council member wanted to, I don't know, maybe wanted to repeal the fee on law enforcement, the new law enforcement staffing fee.
Okay.
And they come to staff and I say, well, I mean, I can't make the budget work without that. So I'm really not interested in putting that item on the agenda as the city manager, but the counselor felt like they really wanted to do it. So they would then need to go out to 2 others and get them to say in an email, yeah, we support putting that discussion of repealing the law enforcement staffing fee on the agenda. So once we got 3 of those, then we would place it on the agenda for the council to discuss and potentially take action. That'd just be an you know.
So
Thank you.
my take on that one is that one, to my way of looking at it, that opens us up to the serial meeting type situation to where that would be, you know, where you would put something out and you'd be requesting additional communications in regards to that from other members of the council, and I would be concerned that's the direction that would go. Me personally, I think that any counselor should be able to ask to have an item put on the agenda by themselves without needing backup, regardless of whether city staff wants to do it or not.
I mean, that puts us, I guess that puts city staff in a difficult position. That's why we would look for multiple counselors, because I don't work for one counselor.
Right.
And so, asking to put an item on the agenda puts me kind of acting for one counselor. So we didn't ask for a full, you know, quorum or a majority,
Right.
but just so we know that there's at least some more support for putting something on the agenda. That's why we looked at something like that.
Let's get other questions first.
So, piggybacking on what Councilor Primer said, in regards to the serial meeting situation. So if a counselor then reached out to 2 individuals, and one of those individuals said no, and then they reached out to someone else, then we're there. It's like, or one of those other individuals then communicated with someone, then, okay, now we're there. It really limits the ability for somebody to independently act to try and move something forward, without putting themselves at risk and putting the whole process at risk. So, I mean, it needs to be done in a way that's open, because also I think it's important that the public has access to seeing, here's what the counselors are thinking. So doing it like through an email, that's really hard to avoid any sort of serial meeting happening. And, you know, doing it, you know, any method except for completely out in the open. So there needs to be space made for that, but in a way that's, in the public.
Well, let us, I mean, we haven't, let us do a little more research on that. I can see the city attorney's already looking at, attorney general opinions, different things. So potentially, let's go see what some of these cities that we found something like that. Let's go see what they've done to address that. We can talk to their, staff, their legal, people as well as do the research on the attorney general site and other places, and see if we find some ways that people have addressed that, or if that's a reason why some cities have gone away from that. So not everybody had that, but we could look at some other options.
Well, my thought on that one is in regards to it being, any counselor being able to put an item on the agenda, not necessarily to vote on it or anything like that, just to bring it up for discussion amongst the council as a whole as to whether to direct staff to go forward with something like that. That's the direction I'm talking about, as opposed to an act, having one counselor putting in for an action item.
Mm, Okay.
That's not the direction I was trying to go with that.
okay.
My thought process is that if, as when Ms. Linton brought forward the one, it was brought forward in such a fashion that we all had the ability to say whether we wanted to move forward with that or not.
Mhm.
And so,
Okay, we can look at ways that might reflect that, some way to have it just be on the agenda for action to go forward or not, whether we want to keep
Like a
talking about
discussion agenda item.
discussion item, yeah.
it. Okay, we can look at how that, we might be able to do that. And that would address the serial meeting issue,
Correct.
as well as our concern, which is we don't want to feel like we're being directed by one of a body that we work with.
Correct.
Okay. All right. The
Hold
next,
one second.
more. Okay.
I did want to express an opinion on this, and that would be that I'd be fine with 2 to 3. I'm not really a fan of a singular one. I think maybe the only person that might have that power would be the mayor. And so I think 2 to 3 is fine. I think if a counselor knows the temperature or the pulse of the council, they should know, I guess, an agenda item that's going to be brought up, if it's something worth discussing, or if it's not. I understand also in light of just, wanting to have conversation. I think we have that opportunity in council comments. We also, anytime that we get together for goal setting sessions, or I guess any broader things that we want to bring up for the council, or an outlook or something like that. So I guess that's kind of what I think. I guess I just don't want it to get too jammed up, especially with just one counselor requesting something. If something merits a discussion, I think 2 to 3, I definitely understand the serial meeting exactly how Councilor Peterson just mentioned it. 3, but once you touch the 4th or have a conversation with the 4th, it's already a serial meeting. So 3 is kind of a tough get. But again, I think if someone has a pulse kind of where the council's at, more or less, I think we would be able to have a conversation. I don't think any conversations that the council wants to have, or even a minority of the council wants to have, I think those conversations are usually brought up. But if not, then, I mean, that's just my opinion on that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Continue on, sir.
Yep. So the next section is the order of business, and this was one we did really just change 7 or 8 years ago, probably. Set up a new order, and so this adds just some description of each item to the rules, so it's clear what is going on in each item. So I don't know if there's any questions or any interest in kind of changing that up. There was it a goal setting discussion, or no, I think it might have been some discussion with the civic leadership group in one of their kind of work sessions about putting some of these, some items that we might want people, like our finance report is always at the end of the meeting. So rather than making somebody stick around till the end to hear about the money, should we put that up at the beginning? I don't know if that's something that anybody's interested in changing kind of our order of business in that way. I think, that was the only item they kind of talked about, but.
Quite frankly, I just in past practice, I think it's always, most everybody is in the audience isn't, no offense, but nobody, they're not in here to hear the finance report. They're more interested in the resolutions and such as, I mean, yes, we all want to know about the money. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, very, very seldom is it that people are here to hear the ins and outs of that. So I don't,
Okay,
I
just wanted to throw that out because I'd heard.
yeah,
them talk.
I mean, if somebody has ideas about, we have the order that it currently is, and if there's some part of that everybody would want to move forward, I would, this is our time to bring that up. So if you guys are wanting to move things around and that's the way we do this. Man,
I will say that that was something that I had brought up because especially after this last year's budget merry-go-round that we went through. And then we had a lot of people saying, well, we didn't hear that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, by time we get to the budget time, it's at the end of the meeting and we are at our lowest attendance by that point. And I think it would be beneficial to move it up.
okay.
And then we're more likely to have more people actually listening in. But you're right, it's not everyone's cup of tea.
But at the same time, it is online and anybody can go back and watch it at any given time as well. Yes, ma'am.
I would say leave as is, and if we know that people are coming, for a specific reason such as the budget, then we have that option to be able to bring it up. During the meeting, we can push the item up.
We are able to move things around like that. Just
Right, that's
on
actually
notification,
number
right?
24, if you look that.
Yeah.
At the meeting, you can change the order of
Mhm.
business.
Well, Byron has, or we have the ability to change it if needed.
Right.
And so,
We have.
if there's something on there that is going to, generate a lot of people wanting to know, or people staying for it, or here for it, then yeah. Otherwise, I would say leave it where it's at.
So yeah, I think unless anybody has any other oughts, yeah, we can, if we need to move it, and you have that in there as part of the rules. So yeah, we'll leave it as such, and then
Okay.
if we need to change it, we can.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
This may be coming up, but since we're looking at the order of business where we talk about, I wanted to ask a question regarding, public input on non-agenda items, citizen input on non-agenda items. We've operated, under you talk to the mayor and we don't ask questions kind of policy. Are there, I assume there's no changes to that, and I'm just curious if it would be beneficial if there's any information around why it's done that way, or maybe just a review of that language. Because I know some of the input we've received is that, hey, we can say anything, but you're not going to do anything about it. And also we can't get an answer to the question in the same meeting.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if, I know we were adding some language, kind of trying to help explain items and maybe.
Well, part of the reason behind that is just so that you don't have arguments here between the dais and the person. And I mean, it's, yes, we at any time can interact with the person, it's just like in anything else. The direction is to direct the comments to the chair, basically. And then if somebody has something that they want to, they always have the opportunity to, get or whoever's in the middle, get their attention and be able to answer to that. So I don't see that there's a reason, or there's a inability to answer those. It's just that we don't, we've all seen contentious meetings where arguments erupt. And sometimes it's better off just to get the information and then respond back when either cooler heads prevail or during, a more thoughtful response can be provided.
And I agree with that. I just feel like maybe there's a not insignificant amount of the public that doesn't understand that.
Yeah,
So having some language around that.
that's
And,
probably not.
it's been, I think, it's been kind of pointed out that in some council agenda, kind of the script for the person in the chair, the mayor, or whoever's running the meeting, it does have some language about that, council will hear your public input, but not necessarily going to engage, because there's a couple things. One, things that aren't on the agenda and get lots of discussion and stuff kind of make the city attorney nervous related to, public meetings and that type of thing. Public notice that, if we didn't notice an item and we dig into talking about it. So that was one thing. Sorry, before I go on, I think Councilor Linton had a question on this.
Yes, with the comment session for when the people are up giving information, before we were able to, with approval of the mayor, to ask questions just for clarification, because sometimes when people are giving information, they don't give a full picture, and so when you're trying to understand what they're asking for or the knowledge that they're trying to get or convey to us, I think we should be able to ask them questions. I'm pretty sure we, can tell if somebody's being pretty heated out there and don't want to fight, so just automatically just don't ask anything, just let it go. But every now and then, for clarification, we should be able to continue to be able to say.
But ultimately that belongs to this person to decide whether that goes on, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because that's the mayor or the council president or whoever's sitting in the middle seat. As,
Yeah, that's
they're
what I was
there
trying
to
say.
ensure that the meeting rolls in a
Mhm.
orderly fashion. And so if you say you have to do it this way, then
No,
that
no,
kind
no.
of takes
I
that
was
out,
saying what,
so.
I was saying what going to the person that was in charge.
Yeah.
The president or the mayor, that we, as,
Presiding officer.
presiding officer that
Yeah.
has done that before, because I have asked a question or two and I've asked, could I, and they gave me permission to do so. And so,
Yeah, and
Want
and
that-
that
would like to
kind of,
have that
there's
option.
kind of two different areas. One, if it's a subject that, the staff's given a report on and we've done all that, then having the public come up and ask a question, that's different because we've noticed that. It's an active discussion, and so then the council or the staff can address questions. It's more to the topics where, just somebody comes in and asks us a question in the public comment period that's not related to anything on the agenda. How long do we talk about it?
I was very specific about it was not.
Right.
Yeah.
Why this intersection doesn't have a four-way stop sign as opposed to a two-way,
Yeah. And so, actually, up above it, it referred down to this item, which is in the next section, which is called public comment. And so then it explains, since we last looked at the rules, we are now doing a lot of electronic comment. And so this lays out the procedure that we've been following so that when electronic comments come in, we can keep it in an orderly fashion. So like if we get a written comment, we forward that to you and you can look at it as we're discussing it. Or we've never had anybody raise their hand on Zoom and ask to have that comment, but I'm sure at some point we'll
it
have
will
that.
happen at some point.
And so that's what this procedure lays out. But the item B under this 25 deals with this non-agenda item issue or topic. And so one of the things it gives a number 4 is it proposes that it would allow for some discussion about an item briefly. And so just not a protracted response, or, it might be to clarify. And, depending on the subject, sometimes I'll bring back an answer to the next meeting. or sometimes I'll just send it out in written form to address issues. So this kind of gives some, I think it says it limits their questioning to no more than 2 minutes per speaker. So if there was, if the council wanted to understand better what they were complaining about, or, that they had brought, then there is some allowance for that. But again, up to the chair to decide how long we let that go, and making sure nobody gets out of hand.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that that could lead to getting off topic
Mhm.
hugely. I mean, because if somebody's directing their question to any one of us up here and you feel compelled to answer, it's gonna lead you off in the weeds.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why, even the little speech, it always says, direct
Direct
your
the chair to
comments to
me.
the chair and that type of thing. So again, trying to keep the flow of the meeting and making sure it's organized.
I agree with that.
I think one of the things that are also, that I guess we don't really talk about, is that city staff and city management ends up having most of the time a conversation with whatever constituent that might be. So sometimes we don't get to hear the happy ending, but we do know that the staff is doing the work on the back end to try to fulfill whatever request or help out whatever residents here.
Yeah, and often that will be, the chair will say, why don't you meet with the city staff and kind of help resolve that, depending on the kind of issue that it is. Then also this section includes a reminder that, if they're there to talk about something that's on the agenda, we allow that to happen when the agenda item is there, so that it's more relevant to your deliberations and discussions. And so it's just a reminder to do that. Okay. Now, the next one is really a big, long addition, because we really didn't have a lot dealing with public hearings. But as we were looking at what other people are doing, other cities have done with their rules and so forth, we wanted to be a little more clear about public hearings, because they're different than, let's say tonight, we're adopting a resolution and we allow public comment. That's not technically a public hearing. That phrase has some legal meaning, and specifically in land use situations and other things like the budget, we're required to have a public hearing about it. And so we just wanted to lay out kind of what the rules were specific to public hearings, spell them out a little bit. And all of this is kind of what we do already. So it's just laying out our current process, but just spelling it out in the council rules, rather than just kind of be understood. The council experiences it a lot, so you're familiar with it, but the public isn't necessarily, so it just lays it out. Any questions or thoughts about that? And one of the things that's a little odd, I don't know, even since I've been here, that we've actually had a quasi-judicial public hearing, which is like the council is set up as the appeal board on certain decisions. And so it's almost like a court type of a situation. And so I don't think we've ever done that yet, but it does. That's why it gets so long, is that there's land use, there's kind of general public hearings, there's land use hearings, and there's quasi-judicial land use hearings. Lots of things. All of it are, the procedure is very similar, but just wanted to make sure everything is laid out and is explained properly in there.
Okay.
All right. So now I'm trying to get control.
We kind of skipped over it. I don't think there's any a whole lot of change, but the recess and change of business, we kind of skipped over because we went straight to the public comment. But recess, that's
Yeah, it's pretty much the way we do it. Pretty
And same,
standard.
and again, same with the change of order. Anybody can
Right.
make a request to change. Okay.
Yeah, and what we've done, we've done that in the past. If the mayor recognizes that there's a whole lot of people there for the last item on the agenda, he might move that up so that we can talk about it sooner.
Yep.
Okay, there's legislative land use. All right, ordinances. So, this is really kind of taking what's in our charter and how how it states that we adopt ordinances and just puts that in here. Again, it kind of makes it a one-stop shop, so we don't have to flip back and forth between the charter and this when we're talking about how is an ordinance adopted. So it brings it all into one spot. So for maybe a new council member or even an experienced one wants to know for sure how the process is. So this really just is laying out the process that we have for adopting an ordinance. So for example, on an ordinance, we're required to record who voted which way, those types of things, whereas on a resolution or a motion, we're not necessarily required to do that. And on an ordinance, we have to have at least 5 members of the council to even take action on an ordinance. So we've had some times where we had to postpone action on an ordinance because we didn't have we still had a quorum, but we didn't have
5 counselors.
5 counselors to, like, the mayor can count as a quorum, but the mayor doesn't count as a counselor when you talk about voting. You could have 4 counselors and the mayor and still have a meeting, but they can't, that group can't adopt an ordinance according to the charter.
Because the mayor can't vote.
Right.
Nope.
I guess if they went 2 to 2.
Yeah, 2 to 2.
Yeah. Right, they have to 5 votes. All right, so then the process for adopting a resolution. Again, in the charter, it gives us the process, and so this just lays out that process that we go through. And just one of the differences there, on an ordinance, it's 30 days from the action of the council unless it has an emergency clause on it. But with the resolutions are effective as soon as you adopt them, no matter what. I mean, I guess you could delay them if you put language in the resolution to delay the effective date, but typically they're effective the day the council adopts them. So the next section is a new one, and it's related to that quasi-judicial function that the council might have. So at some point, you may be requested to issue an order. And the easiest example that I can think of on this would be like a code enforcement situation where it gets appealed from our what do we call that? Hearings officer. And then it would come to the council. The council would make a decision, and the council would issue an order stipulating, this person has to do these things or whatever the decision is. And so, again, it deals with this in the charter, but it's never, I mean, like I said, we've never done this before, but we came close in a couple of code enforcement situations in the past. But there's some choices for the person involved or the business or whatever, that they can either choose to go to court or they can come to the council in some different situations. And so when that came up most recently, they chose to go to the municipal court rather than to bring it to the council. So
Would this also include like employment issues, like say somebody's fighting a termination?
I don't think it would go that way. I think they their avenue is to the court once a decision is made by, because the charter designates all of that to the city manager, and then I think their route of appeal would be to the, we'll look at that, just to we'll make sure. There could be a situation maybe.
'Cause it seemed to me, I had seen something like that in the, somewhere in the past, that was an option.
I think one time we did have an employee come before us
Okay,
and we had to, I don't remember the outcome. I really don't because it was a long time ago.
okay. We'll double check and just make sure and let you know if,
Yeah.
if that, how that would work if it did happen, but again, we haven't had to deal with it recently.
They might have come to council out.
Well,
You know, like I said, it's just, you know, it just seems like that any action that the city takes, any action the city takes can be appealed to the city council in one form or fashion or another, I would
Right.
imagine.
Mostly,
So-
yeah.
I just don't know whether it would fall under this or just a matter of bringing it to the council's attention and then the council directing staff to da.
And there are certain, certain things are
Technical.
required, like they can only be appealed, like land use decisions only get appealed a certain way, not necessarily to the council. They would go to LUBA or other avenues, but that's spelled out in the ordinances that govern that. If you can make a note of checking on that personnel decisions. Okay, here, it's talking about, minutes. And this, I hadn't been updated for a while, so I think this is reflecting a number of the latest open records laws and things that we're required to do. And so I don't think there are anything in here that really takes us outside of kind of what we've been doing. It just update some language to get us in tune with in line with the current law that's out there. Yeah, so if, as you review minutes, you can, it's technically a draft when it comes to you in the agenda packet. If you see a change that needs to be made, you can request that. That's what this paragraph 30 stipulates. And so then this section is about the presiding officer. This just kind of clarifies the role of the mayor, role of the council president. And we tried to make it so, again, so a lot of language in there about presiding officer. And so that's whoever's leading the meeting, whether it's the mayor or the council president, or then 34, which has happened a couple of times, which is the mayor and the council president aren't available to lead the meeting. I think it was Rod the last time we did this. And so the city recorder calls the meeting to order, and then the members present vote on who they want to be the chairman, the temporary chairman of the meeting. And so that we're not changing, we haven't proposed any changes to that process, but so. So then we put in some kind of, and we really, there was language related to this in there already. It wasn't quite as extensive, and we kind of looked at what some other cities have put forward as far as how elected officials should conduct themselves. So being a credit to the city, following good ethical standards, trying to be impartial, as they review decisions. And there's some specific language to the mayor versus counselors,
Laying of cornerstones?
laying of, oh, maybe we should, maybe we, I didn't notice that.
That's a little dated, that
Do we
one.
have any more?
I don't,
Good
I mean,
catch. We left that in there just to see.
yeah, okay, no, I mean, I saw that and I was like, I had to ask because, I mean, it's a thing, but I mean, I don't, I would like to know when the last time a cornerstone was laid in the city.
Yeah, I've been a while, I would guess. We did do like
Turning the shovel, I mean, that's.
yeah, but what did we, what's that called? A time capsule type of a thing. We put one over close to the Harkenrider Center. Wasn't in the corner. A lot of times those would have been in the
Yes.
cornerstone of a older building, but this is out away so that we could look at it in 50 years and see what things have changed. And
So we're gonna look at it, are we, in 50 years?
yeah.
I'm gonna be here in 50 years. That's what my wife tells me.
Right. So if there's any, I mean, you have any questions, concerns about how this is laid out as far as some of the behavior? You know, here a council member shall not take up the cause for an applicant for an office. And just some different things like that. I don't, it's not necessarily that there's been any problem with that. It's just trying to lay out kind of a standard for Mr. Primer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jeez.
I was reading.
I have a question on that. You say a counselor, when it comes down to someone trying to get on a committee, like the budget committee or something like that? Or are you also referring to, if someone is running for upcoming office, counselors
that's-
we can
This
endorse?
is more dealing with like an employee. So
Oh,
if
okay.
somebody's applying for a job,
Mm.
a council member shouldn't be out advocating for,
No nepotism.
yeah.
So nobody on this here board is related, eh?
I don't know about that.
But, you know, as far as members of a committee, it doesn't stop someone from saying, yeah, I really support this person. I think they do a good job or whatever. I don't think it,
The whole thing is that you can't do it as a member of the council, but you have that right as a private citizen.
right.
Thank you.
And then, some of this language here is talking about just making sure council members are urged, is the word there, to educate themselves about how the government works. And just making sure they get training and understand as well as possible, the different things that we're doing and how the council functions and its role, all of those things. And this clarifies, what I was kind of talking about before, that, each one of you doesn't have authority to direct the city. It's you as a group that has the authority to direct the city. And so I think this is just a reminder, as we look in the face of potentially 3 or 4 new counselors, this is the kind of thing that would, allow, staff to educate and then encourage to attend training and those types of things as we do that. Mr. Primer, he's,
I'm ignoring him.
oh,
Go ahead, sir.
Speaking in acting as a group, and typically we're pointing all of our direction at the city manager and not a particular staff member,
that's
correct?
correct.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ron.
And just going back to the point of bringing something up on the agenda, I think this kind of re-solidifies for me in thinking that I guess any particular person that just maybe becomes a counselor, maybe they might have an agenda, or maybe they don't know exactly how council or government's supposed to work on the local level. I think it prohibits someone from just kind of hijacking a meeting and then just kind of making a conversation or a discussion that they want to make for whatever agenda or purpose. But again, if there's multiple people interested, then I don't see why not. But I can see how one person doing it could be a slippery slope.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question, and it may not end up even being a question. So when we have a community member who comes to speak on a non-agenda based item, and they have their 5 minutes at the mic, and then one day they come up here, they kind of give up their 5 minutes at the mic to speak about non-agenda based items of things that they are mainly concerned about that are happening in the community. Or do they still have that time? Because a lot of community members start out as people that are in the audience that show up to meetings, and they will come up to the mic and they will say, here's what's going on, and I'm concerned. And then later on, those agenda, what they talk about might end up on our agenda. But when they get elected and come up as an officer up here, as an elected official, have they forfeited that right to have that 5 minutes of time on the floor to say what they see that's going on and not bring it to our attention? Or do they still have that right? I
I
mean,
guess I would say it gets addressed in two ways. One, we have a council comment period that where each counselor can say, talk about whatever issues they're concerned with. And so it could be, I saw that, there was, this stop sign isn't being followed, or there's too much speeding on this street, or whatever, if those are typical things we might hear from the public. But also, I'll be meeting with every counselor at some regular interval that, if they had a concern, they could bring it up there as well and could be addressed. So I guess in my look at it, no, not necessarily. They just wouldn't be in the same spot, right?
I want to make sure I understand your question. Are you asking you've been a public citizen and now you're an elected official, or you're an elected official, you want to go and talk at the mic at the beginning of the session and then later on, then come back
you-
up to the dais?
you were right the first part. As I'm referring to, we have involved community members that
Right.
will bring, and have their time at the mic, and it's like, okay. And then one day they become an elected official. And it's like making sure that we say, okay, here's when those times, and making sure that we're drawing attention to, all right, here's what that looks like now. Like, you haven't forfeited the right to speak your mind and, bring your concerns up. But, as new counselors come on saying, okay, here's what that looks like once you become elected, and making that clear, then creating space for that to be clear, that you still can say what your thoughts are, and, but it just is going to look different. It's not going to be, addressing the mayor directly during a meeting in, with everyone just listening.
Okay. Ms. Durham?
I think that is usually explained when you have a meeting with the city manager. I think we have the ability to learn about the processes that, as council members, what our role is and when we communicate with each other and how. I don't think, speaking for myself, just randomly speaking for 5 minutes about something, whether it's a concern or just because I want to share, I think I have to be mindful of our time and other issues also that we have on the agenda. So, but I think as far as a community member knowing now as their role, I think it would be something that as you come on board, you are kind of shown that you are, they give you like a rundown of how your role as the city councilor member is. Plus, I think if they've observed, if they've been usual, members of the community that have attended the meetings, I think they kind of have seen the progress of the meeting. And when in doubt, I think that's important to also be open to, like, hey, how does this go? Or is this the time for me to ask questions?
Yeah.
But usually I think it's something that you go over when a new council member comes on board.
Yeah, and we can make sure also to, we'll look at the language up in that first section where it talked about, where we went early, not the first section total, but the one we were looking at, the order of events for a council meeting where it says council comments. We can make sure that that language is kind of clear, that they can bring up issues if they want. But also, I hope that I'll cover that.
And
In
I
kind of
would,
an
I would do that, I think that would be incumbent on the mayor too, to have the discussion with each individual council member, of expectations and
Yeah.
decorum of, while we're up here,
Mhm. Okay.
protocol. Yeah.
How it's done.
All right. I think we're coming up on a good break.
Oh, I don't know. I think we need to get some clarity on the city attorney.
So
Okay, yeah.
we didn't make a lot of changes on city manager, city recorder. We added a little bit related to the city attorney. And so I think the new language is really reflective of what we would like the role of the city attorney to be in a meeting, giving us, any legal thoughts related to the issue if there's any, and then just any, also as the parliamentarian. I'm sure he loves that.
Okay.
So, but I think,
Good. It's a natural stopping point.
yeah, I think that we break into the next section after these here. So I think we'll take up right there when we start again.
Okay, so unless anybody else has anything to add to that or questions real quick, time's up. Okay, break. We'll adjourn for the this work session and reconvene at 7 o'clock. Tap, tap. Huh? Oh, I just have my mind how things work, and I just. I've always.
No, it's not. It's gotta be a majority.
Yeah, but.
No, no, and so it can be different. No, that's the hard part, as long as at some point that subject got discussed.
I've always been able to go both directions on that, so.
You need to put on, you put it on.
Yeah, I'm a really good translator from. one to the other,
Yeah.
So.
I think even the way it works is like if
Feel
4
fortunate.
different counselors had a conversation on that particular subject or something like that would be, even if they weren't directly related. But the hard thing is too, is like, it's like usually like an item or something to make a decision about. I guess not necessarily like I guess you can maybe be very general and not be very specific.
It's never been an issue at all.
With-
The ethics around.
Oh, really?
Like,
Yeah.
like UEC was.
Yeah.
Taking me out to.
No, they did that to me. They get it to me. No, I hear you.
Like one of those, you're worried that quicksand's gonna be a really big problem and you never see it.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. No, I think you see that more at like the bigger, like state and the federal, but like when I was working like as a little page, like yeah, Supreme Court. When I was like working as a little page boy, like kind of doing like errands back and forth for like the representatives and stuff. That's where I could see like that coming more into play. I was like, oh, okay, like because there are a lot of lobbyists that'll take you out and do this, do that, do the other, and I'm like, ooh.
I'll assume that's a no-go from you, but, LOC. I say, hey, we got some extra. You know, that's the whole thing. I figured, well, since that's part of a meeting. Subject, gotta get everybody's.
No way.
Because they have something for us.
Oh, I see.
Well, and I think it was just like an average, it's gonna be a per head. 'Cause
Yeah.
Let people get whatever they. No one knows that. A lot of people, except the old time. So.
Hey, no, dude, you don't wanna get like, nope, that's a no-no.
Gosh, for a while. But, further from the sheriff's office? Yeah. Yeah, well, from actually way back. I used to actually work with my dad. Yeah. So far, you have it against each other. Not yet. Three
I know, right? I told them if they wouldn't have told me I had it, I never knew it.
Oh
That would have been fine, you know?
Jackie, did you find someone, Myers, someone to take care of all those? No?
I remember I was in the hospital and they told me, well, they collapsed. We're gonna take care of
Come on, guys.
You know,
Time.
I said, no, not me. I'll get up and leave before I let you do that.
Yes.
So I can't imagine. having to get foot arthritis. I can't imagine that.
I was ready to sit down, Doug.
Subtle. I am subtle. Look in the dictionary and subtle is my picture. All right, so we are going to call this session or this section of the regular meeting of the Hermiston City Council to order with a declaration of a quorum. The mayor being absent, I am holding in his stead. So at this time, let's all stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so we just finished up with a city manager work session regarding the council rules. Got a few things not necessarily ironed out, but less wrinkles in them than we had before. So I think we're at a place so we can move it along. We're trying to come together with a way to make sure we're doing business in the proper fashion and trying to be as transparent with that as we possibly can. So everybody knows how we do things. Okay, so since we have no other things, we are at the first opportunity for citizen input on non-agenda items. Anyone wishing to bring anything before the council that is not on the agenda is asked to please do the following. 1, limit your comments to not more than 5 minutes. And 2, state your name and address for the record and direct your comments to me. Is there anybody that wishes to bring anything forward? Seeing none, we'll move along to the extensive consent agenda item. Consent agenda items A, minutes of the June 10th City Council and Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Does anybody have anyone need to remove any of the items on there? Okay, any council comments regarding the minutes? No? Public comment? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda item A?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor McCarthy, seconded by Counselor Harden. Roll call.
Yes.
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 I get to vote yes.
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 As a reminder, as a council president, I do get to vote. Normally the mayor does not, so I just want to make sure that everybody knows that's the reason why we're doing it that way. Okay, no items removed from the consent agenda items. The public hearing has been rescheduled to the July 8th city council meeting. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
So we're up to resolutions. Resolution 2330, install stop sign at the intersection of East Main and 9th Street. City Manager Smith.
Yes, so the proposal before you is to add a stop sign for east and westbound traffic on East Main Street at the intersection with Northeast or Southeast 9th Street. And we'll ask Mr. Morgan to walk us through this.
So this one hasn't been done yet, right?
I assure you it is not. Yes,
All right, good.
we could make that happen. So, yeah.
Space bar.
Long location.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Okay.
All right, we'll just make it quick then. Yeah, so this resolution is for installing a stop sign on East Main Street at 9th. This was a request that came up from the neighbors in the area. They're in between 9th and 10th streets, so they had indicated that there seemed to be an increase in speeding traffic on Main Street in that section through there. Oh, must have been on a.
Here we go.
Here we go. There's my speeding car. Yeah. Let's go back. See,
Wow.
look at that. Yeah. Very good. Yeah, that's City Attorney Tovey trying to get home to his house. Yeah. Yes, so this is the downtown area, 395, this 10th Street, Sandstone Middle School, Highland Hills, Main Street right there. So in the yellow box area there, that's kind of where the neighborhood had requested some solutions to address speeding in the vicinity. And so that is roughly where they're requesting a stop sign to be placed. And so when we receive the request, first thing we do is we look at our transportation system plan to see, you know, what is Main Street in that area and what makes sense for traffic control devices. So all of the streets up there that are color coded in some way are either collectors or arterial streets. Every other street on there is considered to be a neighborhood street. So really just serving neighborhood needs and getting folks where they need to be in that area. So you can see here, this line right there, that's Main Street. Main Street is a collector as you head east, but it follows Diagonal Boulevard once you hit 7th Street and heads on out of town. So everything east of 7th Street on Main is really just a neighborhood street. So it doesn't need to be facilitating, you know, rapid traffic flow the same way that a collector would need to be. So just looking at existing stop signs along that route, heading westbound, currently Main Street dead ends at Townsend. There's a stop sign at Townsend, one at 13th, one at 10th, one at 7th, a signal at 4th, and then a signal at 395. And so they're requesting one to go right there where the big gap is. Heading eastbound, there's a signal at 395, one at 4th. If the signal's green at 4th, you wouldn't necessarily have to stop. The next stop condition isn't until you get all the way out to 10th Street. And I think folks who've driven in that vicinity recognize that as traffic's heading eastbound out of town, they can pick up quite a bit of speed as they're hitting the 7th and Main intersection, and probably should be assumed to be going at least 25 miles an hour once they hit that intersection. Then also, again, stops at 13th and at Townsend. And again, requesting the stop to be there at 9th Street. So Chief Hermiston always talks about the 3 E's when it comes to doing things with traffic. That's the environmental conditions, the engineering of the area, as well as enforcement. With enforcement being last, because frankly, enforcement's probably the most costly, because we're talking about putting an actual police officer out there to sit there and try and catch speeders and those types of things to change people's habits, when there's probably more effective ways of doing that when you look at the environment and the engineering. So looking more closely at the area, there's the stop sign again that's being requested at 9th. So yeah, so looking closely there, you can see this is Main Street there. There's the intersection of 7th Street. And through that area, again, from an environmental standpoint, you have this big open area there. I had to show all the speeding race cars going. So, you know, this is different than like a typical current subdivision where you have, you know, frontages of homes that are, you know, 50, 60, maybe 100 feet. You know, all of this developed area that's already developed tend to have, you know, significantly wider frontages onto Main Street. So it feels a lot less dense than if you were in a neighborhood. And then again, you have that large undeveloped vacant lot that, again, as you're just traveling down that roadway, just feels a lot more open. So you're going to be going, you're going to feel like you can drive a lot faster through that area. So what's new? I mean, I think the Highland Summit subdivision's been there for quite some time, but what may be triggering some of these requests is really phases 7 and 8 of the Highland Summit subdivision down in that yellow shaded area was built out since 2017. There's been 60 additional houses built in that area. And so really, because Newport does not connect through to 10th Street at that location, really all of those additional 60 homes, their most direct route to get really to downtown and 395 in that area is again to filter out of the subdivision, hit 10th Street, and then take Main Street into town. So that's probably what's causing some of the anecdotal increase in traffic and potentially speed in that area. So again, we had all the various pertinent city staff departments review it. Anderson Perry looked at it. Our streets operations folks looked at it. Planning, police, and each of the departments indicated a recommendation that adding a stop sign would make sense at that location. So with that, we'd stand for any questions.
Go ahead, sir.
Speed is still 25, right?
Correct. Yeah.
All the way through there. So it's not the problem that the speed's not set too high.
Yeah, it's 25,
Same as
all of the.
everywhere else, okay.
Right.
Not 100% relevant to the stop sign, but you did show an area of town that is empty on Main Street. Do we know what's happening there anytime soon?
Yeah, I suppose the short answer is no. But that's the other thing is, I highlighted one that is vacant, but really there's probably three legs of that intersection within one block. I think there's the potential of adding somewhere between probably 50 and 70 additional houses within one block on to the northwest, southwest, and southeast of that area. So, and really it's all zoned for residential. If you get there's been some interest from some small level home builders that putting some infill homes in there. And so I think at any given time, you could probably see some additional homes going in there.
Thank you.
Mr. McCarthy.
I'm taking that.
Okay. My question, is that going to be just a Main Street stop, or is that going to be a four-way?
There's already stops on 9th, so it would turn it into a four-way.
Okay, so it will become a four-way?
Yeah.
And are these going to be the lighted? Like,
the lighted ones cost more, so we hadn't been planning on it. But what we would do though is making sure that we put up some temporary signage, traffic revision ahead, those types of things for a temporary measure.
okay. Any other questions? All right, any council comments? We've got that covered. Public comment, any public comment on this? I see a thumbs up from the audience. That's good. We like those. Double thumbs up. All right. So can I get a motion to adopt?
So move.
Second.
Moved by everybody, seconded by everybody. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion unanimously and then some passes. All right. Resolution 2331, a resolution authorizing the transfer from contingency to the capital outlay line in the Hermiston Energy Services Fund. Mr. City Manager.
So this is a request to basically just kind of move some money we have into a capital outlay project. And the reason we're asking is we had planned for certain projects and had the budget ready for that, but due to some fortunate bidding situation in conjunction with UEC, a contractor gave a really good bid on another project that we've been planning in a future year. And so to save about $75,000, which is about 15% of our cost of the project, they can do it now within our budget year. And so we would like to move that line. It's in contingency and we just need to move it into the capital outlay line. And because it kind of hit two thresholds, one, it requires us to request to move it out of contingency, but it isn't to the level of a budget amendment. We just need authorization to move it from contingency. So we'd be happy to answer any questions. If you have any detailed questions, Mr. Rivera is here from HES.
Council? Mr. McCarthy?
How is the contingency fund funded? And how would we replenish that if we wanted to?
I mean, it's basically money that we have on hand in that fund. And so it's put in there for situations kind of like this, maybe more of an emergency situation, but it's a justified use of that. And we anticipate that it would be replenished as more revenue comes in, because we've done a project now that we were planning to do in the future, so next year we wouldn't be spending as much necessarily.
Any other council comments? Any public comment on resolution 2331? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt resolution 2331 and lay upon the record?
So moved.
Second,
Been moved by Counselor McCarthy, seconded by Counselor Meyer. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we're to the other Civic Leadership Academy report. City Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Council President, members of the council. So a few weeks ago, you heard from our inaugural Civic Leadership Academy participants. And as I stated then, and then some of the council requested that we kind of talk about what they reported and how we, as staff, intend to kind of take a look at that and move forward, or different things that we found in there, maybe some ways that we've already kind of worked on some of the issues they came up with. So we're going to go through that tonight. So first, the question that we put before the Civic Leadership Academy was, how can the city increase community engagement? What are some things that we can do? So as I reviewed their presentation and was able to review their notes and some of the things, and then having sat in on a couple of their sessions, I took away kind of 4 themes out of that. And I also want to recognize, they had a 6-week period that they were doing. And so they did not have the opportunity to maybe go into the depth that city staff is able to go into as we look at issues over a long period of time. And so I just want to highlight some things that we have done in these areas, but always acknowledging that, we appreciate a new perspective and new opportunities to look at how we can be better. And so that's some of the things we're going to talk about. So first, language was a large topic. So depending on where you go to look at what percentage of our population is Hispanic, can be anywhere from 40 to 50%. And that designation doesn't always mean that that they only speak Spanish or anything. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that as we look at that portion of our population. It is something that we work on, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But it doesn't always reflect that percentage needs Spanish language capability. Our city website, they pointed out that maybe we should have that available in Spanish. It is available in Spanish. It's also available in 8 other languages. One of the things that we talked about in relation to that is the button that allows you to do that is in the kind of hidden in the bottom, and it will take a larger fee to move that around, and we're coming up on a automatic refresh that we can do with our contract on our website. And so we'll plan to move that into a more prominent spot where that can be more accessible. So kind of getting to their comment that needs to be out there where people can see it better. And I agree. They talked a lot about making translation services available. I hesitate to say 100%. I always tell my kids, you can't say all or always or never, because that's pretty hard to get there. But I think most of our documents are available in English and Spanish. And when we come on something that hasn't been translated, we work at doing that. We have some great staff with the city now that can do that translation, and it's been really good. We have 27% of our employees receive bilingual pay. So that means they passed a test that shows they have a certain level of capability in Spanish. And as we look at front desks for the city, we only really have one front desk that doesn't right now have a bilingual staff member to be available if someone needs Spanish. And so that one, unfortunately, there's only one person that's the front desk. And so as we have the opportunity, we'll work on that. That's the Parks and Rec department right now. So, but in the future, we'll be looking at that as a possibility as well. Again, from translation standpoint, the court has already been using a translation services for non-Spanish speakers. We have people who can help with the Spanish, but other languages, I remember it was a few years ago, but I think we had someone in court who needed French. And so we were able to use that service to help them as well. The police department's been leading an effort to try to come to get either another service or utilize the same one as the court to be able to provide kind of 24/7 availability of that if we need it, when officers are on the street or in other situations throughout the city. And mostly, again, we need that for non-Spanish because we have a pretty good coverage of Spanish speakers, but that could be an option if we needed it as well. Kind of along the same lines, there was some discussion about the police department, and I just want to really highlight the efforts that this police department has made in this area in particular. And statistics are particularly for sworn officers, but again, trying to be more diverse. We have 19% of our officers are female, and the average nationally is 12 to 13%. So it may not be exactly where we want it, but we feel like we're doing a pretty good job.
That statistic is, I think you said it, but I just want to clarify, is specific to officers, not necessarily the entire police department.
That's correct.
The
That's
number?
the sworn officers. That's a majority of the positions in the police department. Then 29% of our police department also receive bilingual pay, so they can work with the public in Spanish as well. Now, another thing that I wanted to highlight is our police department's been working very hard to be more accountable for their treatment of the public and how they do their job. We're the first in the region to adopt and utilize body cameras, and I think I think the chief would echo this, but it's good for the officers and it's good for the public. It's good for everybody to know what happened, and we can watch. It's not perfect in every situation, but it really helps everybody kind of be accountable for their actions. Another recent requirement from the state is that we report that every time we make a traffic stop, that we report the perceived race or ethnicity of the person who has been stopped. And I guess is it broader than just traffic? Pedestrian as well. So in 2023, we had almost 4,000 stops. 52% of those were white, 54% Latina. 44, sorry. 1.8% other, which includes those categories, and then 1.6% for African American. And so I think that we're being accountable. The state's requiring this, but it gives us an opportunity to show what we're doing. Another piece of kind of an accountable police department is there was some suggestion that maybe people aren't comfortable calling the police department for help. Now, we can't control every person and their interaction with the police and how they feel. But this is a chart over the last 10 years of our calls for service. And so you can see that it came down a little bit early in those years, but it's been trending up over the last 4 years quite steadily, and we're probably at the highest that we've been for a long time in our calls for service. Then, as This topic was brought up a couple times, related to Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and some challenges that happened in that. We work with the Chamber of Commerce and we try to help them, but that's not one of our, that's not what we do. And, and it's, I know there's people up here, I think even some staff that participated and were active in that, or in the Chamber of Commerce at that time. But again, that wasn't a city function. I recognize some people don't always draw the line, they don't know where to draw the line as far as who's the city and who's not. But we continue to, do what we can. But again, we're not the Chamber of Commerce. So then on an education standpoint, they had a lot of good ideas about things that we should be working on. One thing, they talked about being very succinct in our information. I agree. I think we really try, but we work on complex issues. Sometimes it's really hard. We have to walk a line between giving all the information or enough that people can understand it and then trying to be succinct. Because if you leave out certain details, then you lose part of the issue, or you lose part of the discussion. And so trying to work on that, I think it was a great suggestion that we continue to focus on that and try to figure out how we can share the best information possible and try to make it as understandable as possible. Another suggestion they made was to go where people are, attending events, wearing shirts so that, and I think this was mostly a suggestion maybe to the council, but maybe to the staff as well, when we're attending city events, that we have identifiable something, clothes, a name tag, things like that. And so, trying to figure out how to do that. I think it's a great suggestion. Trying to figure out how best to do that is a challenge that we'll be working on, and kind of bring back some thoughts and ideas as we go forward. I know from a Parks and Rec standpoint, our staff they always are wearing an identifiable shirt so that they can help people and people can go to them for help. And so I think it was kind of related to the next large bullet point about making the leaders relatable or recognizable. But before I go to that, one of the other suggestions was coffee with a counselor. That it's something that I've seen done in other cities in different ways. I added the staff because you guys you don't know all the details of what we do, and I wouldn't expect you to. And to be able to answer those questions that might come up, I would suggest that it would be good to have a staff member with you. And so looking at, what kind of a schedule would we do that on? I think this will be an item I would bring back to the council to talk about and see what you're interested in. I know you guys are volunteers, and so what can you commit to as a volunteer, and how frequently or those kind of things. But being available for people to, just kind of interact with in a more informal situation, I think it's a valuable and could be a good change. Making leaders relatable. And there's a number of kind of items along this line, but educating people about the departments, the form of government. And we talked, they talked specifically about maybe making videos about this. And, we've talked about what that might look like and they're starting to look at ideas about how, some of this it wouldn't have to change a lot. Our form of government doesn't change every year. And so we could do some things that would be able to educate people and put it out there and make it available to help people understand what the leadership of the city is. Another is, some of you attended some of their sessions, and each of you shared kind of what brought you to want to participate in the council. I think they really liked that. And so, could we do videos with each of the council or something, just sharing 2 or 3 minutes of why did you decide to run for office? Why are you involved? To try to help the public decide that that's something that they could do as well. I think this is a great suggestion. Trying to figure out kind of the cost, what is that going to look like, those types of things. We're working on that. But I think that's another idea that can help, again, make the city not seem like the kind of the big scary, no recognizable faces, you know. And so that was another idea. Another, you know, we tried this kind of, and this is more just kind of, we tried doing a short video after every council meeting to kind of do just a recap. What did we do? What did we talk about? What did we work on? And we kind of did that as kind of in the middle of COVID, and it really, it was hard, and we didn't stick. So, you know, we're looking at how could we do that? Could we start that up again? You know, we were able to use the counselors who had the ability to do it in 2 languages and be able to do that. But we'll be working on how can we make that happen. You know, video really is, for the younger generation, people I mean, that's the way they communicate. A lot of video. And so we probably should be, you know, working on that a little better if we want to get that group involved. Then they talked about information in one place. Again, we feel like we've tried to do that with the website. There's a lot of information there. Could it be easier to navigate? Yes, I'm sure it can. And so we'll be looking at that. We try to use Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Nextdoor, but in larger cities, that's the big one that a lot of people use to talk about neighborhood issues. And there's Nextdoor here, and there's people who are members and stuff. A lot of the posts nowadays at this current time are about, you know, I lost my cat, you know, did you see this dog? And it's a great app for that, for, you know, to connect neighbors and to help them help each other. And so we have started making posts on Nextdoor as well. So just trying to use the only major social media outlet that we don't use is X, formerly known as Twitter. So, but you know, I think we have an account, but we don't post a lot on it. So, oh, Mark keeps Mark keeps up on all the city business that way. The next item they talked a lot about was trust. And I think that is, you know, I think all of those efforts that we've talked about before are ways that things that we need to be working on to build trust. And maybe if it's rebuild trust with people or just establishing trust, that's an important piece. A couple of items that came out, you know, we need to be talking in plain language, you know, whether we're in English or Spanish. We need to try to, you know, I do this too much. Acronyms, jargon, things that, you know, I deal with every day, but I know everybody else doesn't. And so trying to clean those words out of what we do and try to be more succinct and straightforward. So we'll work on that and how we communicate with the public. And then they were concerned about some negative interactions as far as customer service. So we're always working to train our staff to help them improve customer service. And you know, that's all. I think that's an ongoing thing that we'll always be doing, is working on training. You know, sometimes our staff gets a bad rap when it comes to customer service because they have to say no. I mean, we can't be, you know, give away everything, right? Like and sometimes that's what people expect out of good customer service. You know, ultimately you're going to have to pay the water bill sometime, or your water's going to get shut off. You know, and so some of that we can't do, but we'll try to do it with a smile, try to do it professionally, all those things. So their last item was time, and you know, that I think that's a huge challenge, trying to get people to spend time to listen to what we have to say, to read what we're putting out. That's a challenge. I think it's a challenge for everybody. All of these issues really, these are not unique to Hermiston, though it feels like it might be, but cities around the country, around the state, are dealing with the same kind of thing, trying to find the best way to engage their public, their citizens, the people that live in their communities. So one suggestion was more posts on the reader board, and we try to put a lot of our kind of more fun events get put on the reader board down at the community center. Could we add another reader board somewhere else in the city? Maybe, there's, and maybe that catches different people because everybody has their different traffic patterns and so forth. Another one that we've made some efforts at this past couple of years is a unified community calendar. So we've partnered with the chamber and then EOTech and Parks and Rec. We're trying to put all of the public events on that calendar so somebody could go to one spot. And I know it's a challenge. I was speaking with Val Hoxie from the chamber. She's out always gathering events and trying to put it on there so people can find them and stuff. And so actually just a couple weeks ago, I sat through a sales presentation on another type of community calendar software that might be better at going out and finding those events and be able to bring them in and do things like that. So it's a great idea, and we continue to work on it. And, I think that's another one that other communities continue to struggle with as well.
Only we had a website.
Just want to add that that calendar is called Hermiston Live. So anybody interested in looking up events on that calendar, you can just Google Hermiston Live and you'll be able to locate it. You can also add the events directly from that calendar to your phone, so it'll synchronize with your phone's calendar.
Yes. Another item they talked about is our meeting times, things that, I think we've talked, we continue to talk about what can we do to make sure we're available as much as possible. One of the challenges is we have a community that we have a lot of shift workers, right? That, I don't know that there would be any time that we could say we could be available to everybody because, Lamb Weston's always got people working and, yeah, the data centers got to have people working all the time, and the hospital, everybody, so trying to do the best we can. One of the items that we can continue to talk about as we look at our council rules, do we want to change, do we want to go to first and third Mondays and the school district does second and fourth, so that at least that's one less conflict we have with other community groups. That's just some of those types of things. And then they also suggested building an app. Some communities have that. There's pluses and minuses to doing that. And then there's also a lot of challenges in doing that as well. So, we have apps available for our water and our electric users that they can pay and do those kinds of things. Is that, and then trying to bring those into the same app comes into data that necessarily some data needs to be kept confidential and different things, and just different challenges that come with trying to have a unified app. Not something, not that we shouldn't continue to look at it, and there's always new vendors that are trying to solve some of those problems. So always watching for that.
Well, on building an app, there's just, deciding what you want to put, what you're going to put in it. It's daunting, what you would be putting in there, or what, because everybody's going to want this or that or the other thing, and you can't. Again, the only way to fail is to try to please everyone.
Yeah, and that's a challenge. There may be some reason that becomes a good, a good option, and we'll always be looking at ways that we can do that. So just as a wrap up, I really want to again express my thanks to the participants. I think they gave us a lot of good information. They gave us some new perspectives as we talk about these things. And like I stated at the beginning, we're always looking to do better. We're not, even if we've tried some of these things and it doesn't mean we can't look at ways to tweak that and try again. And so really appreciate their thoughts and their perspective, and really happy to have had that go on. Now I'd be happy to have any discussion or any comments from the council.
Council comments? Well, there was a few things that I had thought of as you were rolling through it. I didn't want to interrupt the flow. So But, there's a lot of good things that you said there. I mean, it's when they brought their information to us, it unfortunately was brought with one side of the equation. It didn't have both sides, and that, with you coming in here tonight and excuse me, giving basically our view on that part of it is necessary. I think that we're doing the best we can, I personally would look forward to, the discussion on changing the dates of the council, just so that there's enough. And, it's important for anybody to remember that all 9 of us that sit up here at this desk are volunteers ourselves. We're giving our time to the city. We're doing our best to make the city a better place. And so, it's not that we're trying to be unhelpful. It's just that, we have our time as well. So we're doing what we can. Ms. Meyer.
And also, all of us work. And so, and some in various different shifts, true. But when something is expected or required from us and we show up, then, we have to rearrange our schedules or take time off from work or whatever it is that we have to do. And, so this being volunteer, it isn't always necessarily volunteer for us. I mean, it sometimes, very often, it costs money for us to attend whatever we need to. Not that that is in any way a deterrent from us trying to be to all the different meetings that we need to be, but, there it is in a nutshell. We all work too.
I wanted to speak on the communication. I think in the past, we've talked about this many times of trying to figure out ways to disseminate information to people that in various ways. And there are a lot of people too that don't have computers. And then there's a lot of senior people that aren't really good with computers. And so trying to come up with a way also to be able to reach those people. I have a tech person. That's my granddaughter. So I do have help when I need help. And, but then there's a lot of people that just don't even have cell phones because, they can't afford that's an extra bill and, to have that. And, so I'm hoping that maybe with the discussion, we'll be able to come up with a way to try to be able to reach, those that don't have computers or cell phones. And, also with the meetings of a coffee time, I think that's a good idea. I tried that with Cup of Yo, where I had a meeting and if people had problems, they showed up, a few, but if they didn't have any, they didn't show up. But I think if it's more counselors there when we can, get together and 2 or 3 can then advertise it. And then maybe we can have more folks that would maybe come out and participate and want to learn more about what's going on with the city. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I am also very thankful that one of the members of the, two. Oh, I didn't see you. I'm sorry. I appreciate that they are here tonight so that they also are able to kind of hear some of the things that the city has done, has tried, or certain things that, that we are going to look into. I think I wish, the rest, especially the ones that presented, would have been here so that they would be able to listen to this information. Have you sent this presentation to the rest of the members of the Leadership Academy by any chance?
I sent them the link to the agenda packet, which had it in there,
Great.
but I did not send just the presentation. And there is one of the other members is online. listening.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, and they can access this via YouTube as well too.
Yes.
So.
Perfect. So thank you for that. And I guess I just want to say that there's a lot of good information that was shared, and I'm hoping that, I really like the idea, as Counselor Linton said, the coffee with the counselors, or, I mean, doesn't have to be coffee, could have breakfast or something of that nature. I think it is important for us to be able to have dialogue with community members when they have any comments, any concerns. And maybe we could have it at maybe a morning thing and an evening thing. We can't be more than two, right? Because then it would be a meeting. But I think it would be good for us to be able to sign up for these events, like schedule it maybe, and those that can will, and those that can't, at least maybe we can at least try to make it to one, one of those meetings maybe per calendar year. Because as you stated, we do have jobs, and sometimes our obligations take us besides the regular 8-hour shift, so.
Right, and just, it was pointed out by the member who's on YouTube that there's others watching. I'm sorry, she's on Zoom. There's others from the academy watching.
Oh, great.
Good.
That's great.
Val let me know from the chamber, let me know that a couple people reached out to her also, so.
Great.
Awesome. That's great.
Ms. Peterson.
So just going, Counselor Litton, what you said about some of our individuals may not have access to cell phones and stuff like that, just kind of jogged my brain. They go into the Oregon.gov website, there are some free cell phone services, and also ones for lower income where like part of their bill can be covered, if not the entire thing. So there are some free cell phone services available to those that qualify. And so if you go onto the state website, Oregon.gov, and look up free cell phone service application, that's the thing. And there's several things out there like that. So I would definitely look into that. So.
Another recent announcement we heard from our newspaper company. I mean, that's limiting another source or a way that we used to communicate with our residents. And so, we just continue to try to find different ways.
Thank you. Again, I thank the Civic Academy, the leadership group for the work that they did. I really do think a lot of, again, they had a lot of different interviews with different people of different backgrounds and different occupations. And so a lot of was a public feeling. And obviously, I think the presentation city staff made, feelings are valid, but it's really important to be able to show, what we've been able to do about those different things. I think it's incumbent upon us as leaders of the people that are here to have those conversations, which I'm going to piggyback on a lot of what the council said, along with the idea that was presented by the civic group, which is the coffee with the counselor. I think that'd be a great idea, and especially with staff helping out, having a little bit more knowledge, or at least someone to help in those meetings. I think a lot of the feelings that were brought up again were valid, and again, counselors like us here have to do that work in communicating with the public. In my time here as counselor, I've been on several ride-alongs, had different conversations with members of the police department, and I understand how a few years ago there was a lot of negativity towards police departments across the nation because of different things that have gone on, right? I know specifically our police department is great. What we've done, and the people that are in uniform that serve our city are absolutely great people. And so I can't attest to other things that are happening across the nation and other feelings that people might see when they see the TV, and they might feel a certain way about a law enforcement officer. But at least here in our city, as a representative here of the city of Hermiston, I see nothing but good work, nothing but reaching across, nothing but trying to just serve the community. And so I think it's important as counselors to have those conversations because those feelings are out there and there have been things that have happened across this nation. Now, specifically here, what I can say again is that everything, what we have in our staff and our leadership is fantastic. And so those are the things that I think we need to continue to share with constituents, with people that we know, because again, the feelings are valid. People have seen things, but at the same time, when people have, maybe calmed down, when their emotions come down a little bit, they need to understand that the facts. And the fact is that, the people that serve our community are great people, and they're doing their best every single day. And to that, I applaud our police department. I applaud, our city staff. For making sure that, the people that protect us every single day are great people. They receive the adequate training. And again, I guess touching on national things about funding or defunding, our police department absolutely needs funding, because that's how inevitably they protect us. And so having those conversations with community members about what it means to fund a police department, what it means for our police department to be representative of us and protect our citizenry. I think that's really important. And so I just wanted to share those things. Again, hearing the civic leadership group speak the last time, hearing staff speak this time, and then just I guess having space for both, that there are those feelings out there. But at the end of the day, the people need to know that our city has great people behind it. And so just wanted to share those comments, those feelings with council and the public, because I do want them to know that we have exceptional talent and exceptional leadership here.
So, well, yeah, well documented my involvement with law enforcement, but, the thing is that in law enforcement, most of the time you're not dealing with people on their best day, or the circumstances in which you're having conversations with them is not something that they want. One side or the other doesn't want that person there necessarily. So you're not dealing with the happiest of individuals, and you're never going to get a 100% everybody's happy outcome. So there's always going to be people that think that the police department should do this, shouldn't do this. Why are you doing this when you should be doing this? You're going to get that no matter what you do. That's a no-win. But at the same time, as Councilor Brown said, our folks here are doing an outstanding job. I could not be more proud of the department as a whole than I am, because, I've seen the folks working in the trenches. I've seen the folks leading the folks in the trenches, and everybody is working towards the same goal, and that's to keep the public safe. And that is the ultimate goal, is to make sure that the public is safe. And we do that all day long, 24/7. And, it's a tribute to you, Jason, for the work that you've done and the leadership that you've provided your folks. So thank you for that. So at this point, any public comment? Anybody else want to? Oh, sorry.
Just that I wanted to thank you, Byron, and the rest of your staff for putting together a report that takes into account some things that maybe somebody that only had several weeks to look over may not have had the background for, gives us a better picture of that. One thing that I said, I attended the very last formal meeting that the group had. One thing that I said to them is in preparing for public speaking for somebody who maybe isn't a regular public speaker, is to care about what you're saying. And I think it's very obvious that most of those, even if they could have used some additional information or more time to have a better picture, I think everyone did. So I want to compliment them for that. And to that end, I just want to remind everyone that you can fill out your declaration of candidacy by picking up SEL 101, either from the City of Hermiston website under elections, or go to Lily upstairs and she can help you out. You have until September.
We have two candidates already in this audience.
Oh, August, sorry, no, toward the end of August, sorry.
All right.
21st.
All right.
I got a detail wrong.
Now, public comments. Anybody? Here we go. Remember, give your name and where you live.
Hello. No, that's not working. Yep.
Yeah, pull it down.
Push it again.
You turned it off.
Turn it off.
Ah,
There we go.
aha, there we go. That's me. Hi, Stephanie Hughes, 35 West Cedar Drive in Hermiston, of course, and I was one of those that you speak of. I just wanted to say thank you, Byron, for alerting me to the fact that you were going to be presenting that tonight, and for the fact that I really feel like you and your staff took the time to listen to what we came up with. And I really appreciated your facts. I mean, it is very true. Just because someone's Hispanic does not mean they don't speak English. And we did not have, I mean, we could spend days and days and weeks and still not have all the answers. But I like what you came up with. I appreciate the time that you guys took, because it shows that it wasn't just it wasn't just for show, right? You guys actually listened to us, and then they took it, and now you're listening to them again. So thank you. I personally like a couple of the ideas, because I may or may not have been the person that threw them out there. I just had to throw this out because I know I wasn't one of the presenters. I missed the day they were handing out the microphones. So I figured you should hear me today. But thank you all for the opportunity. It was amazing. And again, thank you for actually listening. And I look forward to seeing what happens with that information. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment? Glad you decided to do that.
Adam Huxell, 1357 Northeast Madrona in Hermiston. And yeah, thanks again. Actually doing the research, we became aware how much the city is actually doing. So that was great to see. But I think the biggest thing was the perception of the people that we interviewed. And it wasn't everybody, but how do you foster stronger engagement? So we picked the people that didn't feel as much involved. So obviously take that for what it is. The thing that I feel that I gained the most from this was that we came together very much the way that you guys are coming together to put a presentation together instead of an individual voicing their own opinion. So that I think was a big accomplishment for the civic leadership, just in developing us as individuals for the community. So I think that was excellent. The one thing I do want to bring up about my major takeaway from this academy was, in speaking with several individuals, it was apparent that they didn't feel comfortable. Even me coming up here, I don't feel comfortable. I've been in this room 7 times, 8 times now, and walking through the doors, I didn't feel very comfortable. And not for any reason that anybody else did, but I think it would be beneficial to figure out a way to make people feel comfortable. And I know that that's a big ask, and I don't know how we accomplish it, but I think that's the biggest thing, my takeaway.
Public speaking is never easy. I hate speechifying myself, but it's yeah. What can I say? But yeah, it is intimidating to stand there and put yourself out there to, essentially 9 to 200 million strangers, given YouTube. But yeah, there's no easy answer to that one. It comes with experience. Like. Again, going back to the cop days, first time you pick up the microphone and talk on the radio is intimidating. It's a hard thing to do. You're not sure, you don't want to mess up. Nobody wants to mess up. And so the fact that you both chose to come up here and speak to us is commendable. Thank you so much, because this is the reason why we did this. The reason why this program was put forward is to get these ideas out, to get people talking, if for no other reason, to get people talking. You know, we don't, there's not a single one of us up here, as much as some of us might like to think they know everything. Okay? But getting that information, getting a bunch of people up here and telling us what they think, their perception, gives us a better idea of how to move forward. So I appreciate the both of you stepping up. Now, is there anybody else that wants to step up and make any comments on this? Okay, you had your chance, but I'll give you this once.
Thank you. I think it's so difficult when you come into a different concept of a meeting. The same thing as how I felt with a school board meeting. And I think even some of our budget committee members are very shy when it comes to, you know, expressing and kind of knowing. Well, there are several that have done it for years, but when you're new, I think it's just human nature not to know. But I think what we want to gain out of this Civic Leadership Academy is to hopefully grow new leaders, be able to have that connection with the city, to be able to feel comfortable to come to the meetings, kind of see how it plays out, and either maybe possibly joining the council or being part of different committees. I think that's another way that people can kind of get their feet wet, is to join other committees that we also very much need a lot of volunteers in order for us to be able to have a good perspective from the community. So I think that's another way that people can get involved, and then that way you feel a little bit more comfortable when you get into this setting. Because honestly, this was so new to me that it took me, I think, maybe a full year to be able to feel comfortable, because people like Mr. Hart and Mrs. Myers that have been here over 20 years, you know, and here I am, a newbie.
Maria.
Well, I'm just talking about your experience. And so that can be intimidating. And so I totally understand, but I think that would be my suggestion, would be to join our committees.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, any other information you want to throw out there in regards to this?
No, I appreciate the good discussion and we'll continue to move forward on.
All right, moving on to the May 2024 financial report. Are we going to hear from him?
Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah, let's give him a hand. Finally get a chance to hear from our guy.
On? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can council, thank you, council. Well, first I need to apologize because I don't have any cool graphics like Mark Morgan, so
Oh.
sorry about that.
That's good. It means no, we'll leave it there.
Is it this one?
Ooh, ouch.
What did I do? Did I do it again? Which one do I put? Oh, play? This one? Okay. Okay, so these are the May 31st, 2024 budget to actual financial reports. I'm just going to talk briefly about the Hermiston Urban Renewal, known as HURA. North Hermiston Urban Renewal has begun design on the Aspen Drive project, approximately $20,000 to date. The 2nd Street Gateway project will be completed in June. I believe the columns are going up. It's open now. Okay, so it is complete. Any questions on that?
Well, I have one. I know when we were talking about it at first with the gateway here, we were talking about having trees put in there. Are there going to still be trees put in there? And if so, can they be fruit trees?
That was the landscaping had to be cut from the budget.
Oh,
And
okay.
so we plan in the future to be able to add back some landscaping. We did install the infrastructure for irrigation, but we didn't have the funding for, but I will have to say, we probably won't be fruit trees.
Oh.
Yeah, they make such a mess.
There are a lot of, that's a lot of maintenance work.
No, it's not moving. Right now? Okay, so general fund for May 31, 2024 was, monthly revenues are above projections by approximately $324,000. And that is due to some reimbursements that we got back from for planning costs, related to the UGB project, some timing of annual franchise fees, and then, building with the Amazon complex is still booming, so the fees related to that. So we're slightly ahead of projections for the end of the year, 5.8%, so 6% in round numbers. That'll continue to level out as we get closer. Well, we're almost to the end of the year, and so in a week, so we're almost there. Monthly expenses, never like to see this, but this isn't a bad thing. This has to do with the annual timing of the city hall debt service that we do every year. So that put us above projections by about $237,000. It's a combination of that and some other savings that we had across expenses. Annual expenses, which is good news, is still about 6.7% below projections. We anticipate that won't change too much for the following month and final. Any questions so far?
Yes, Mr. Palacios. How much is the debt payment?
I knew that was going to come up. It's $335,000,
Thank you.
including interest.
Okay, thank you.
I have to play. Wiki. So the utility and street funds, this is strictly in Fund 6, which is the recycled water and water fund, ended $65,000 ahead of projections. This all had to do with the timing of the land purchase that was approved before I started. So this should level out and clear out before the year end. So we shouldn't end up over budget, but it just looks over budget because of the timing of that payment, which was budgeted. And then I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Smith because he knows more about the projects than I do.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about these last time. These are all three projects that are in design. The Gladys, Main, and Newport water line construction projects. We anticipate starting pretty close to the 1st of July on those, so that will be moving forward. These are a variety of projects. So in the Teen Adventure Park, we anticipate the final piece is building the sidewalk along the street there, and we think that'll start around the 1st of July as well. Up at the airport, the taxi lane is under construction, and it'll be later, probably in the fall, when the actual hangar building starts to go up. We downstairs, as we're building out the final piece of City Hall, we should be finished as long as everything comes in. We're waiting on doors and light fixtures. If they come in time, we should be done this month, but it may bleed into July a little bit. And then on the Harkenrider, the framing, the concrete's done. They are also waiting on some the lighting and light fixtures and the doors again, the metal doors. And so, but that one's probably about a month behind the IT project downstairs. The ARC building has a new roof, and we've also done some of the additional electrical work inside. We're getting ready for moving the police officers in there, probably, we say October, sorry. Getting these all confused, but we're working on that. The Public Safety Center, they have started the first phase, which is to renovate the old court space. And so when that's complete, we'll move our records and evidence into that area. And then that's when the rest of the building kind of goes under construction, and that will be in the October timeframe. So. That I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I'm
Any
sure
council
Mr.
comments? Yes, Ms.
Are you keeping the building where the records people are working in now? When all of the construction is done?
Are we? Yeah, it's going to get turned into something else.
Oh.
So the courtroom space and everything is going to be that'll be evidence storage. The records will be kind of out in the front of that, where the court clerks previously had been. It's taken up more space than that.
But
the
the building itself
area.
is going to stay
Yeah,
still?
that the shell of the building's going to stay, and then the place where the records staff is right now will become, I don't know particularly what that, can you remember what's going to go into where records is now? Okay, so it'll be turned into some other use.
Thank you.
Okay, we are coming to the close of this budget. That'd be, the closing is the end of June, or is the first?
Correct.
Okay, so then we'll be giving a summation of whether we met budget, over budget, or,
Mm-hmm.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that, our next monthly financial report will kind of give the preliminary version of that. We have to wait for the audit to get the final version. They check our numbers and give us some changes that we might need to make, and then we'll be able to report on that.
Thank you.
Any other comments on budget?
Thank you, Mr. Palacios, on the report. Definitely appreciate hearing your perspective and your expertise. I do want to ask, in future presentations, should we expect kind of like a summation, like you're kind of giving us, and then more of the details we're going to read in the packet, or?
Yeah, we're working on changing the formatting of the financial reports. That'll come later. I think Byron kind of alluded to that, but probably closer to the fall will be the first time we'll start to see that. And we'll certainly have a summation after the fiscal year end about highlights and some things we could change. Can I answer the question?
Thank you, Mr. Palacios. And I just so happened to be in the basement of the Harkin Writer this last week for a meeting, and was seeing a couple old pictures of old Hermiston. And I noticed that ARC building, even in, I think it was 1950s, it looked exactly the same still back then. So it's great that there's being renovations and things done. So that was just kind of really cool to see. A lot of pictures of old Hermiston. What's the same, what's different, but
Yeah.
it's cool to see there's going to be some good changes.
Any other council comments regarding the financial report? Okay, public comment. Public comment on the council report or financial report? Seeing none, can I get a motion to accept the May 2024 financial report?
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Linton, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Roll call.
Yes.
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 Motion passes unanimously. City committee and liaison reports. Do we have any reports?
I attended the Recreation Projects Fund Advisory Committee, AKA the TRT Fund Committee. Myself, Mr. Kelso in the audience, and Mr. Councilor McCarthy were in attendance for that meeting. So we have a couple of members here present. We did have a prolonged discussion about 3 hours or so. This has been a record of the most nonprofits that have applied for the TRT grant. I think we had 12 applicants, which was almost double of last year, requesting 143,000. And so I think this was the first year that we definitely had more people requesting than we had available to fulfill. And so the committee came back and decided to approve all of the requests. They were all worthy causes. Obviously, we couldn't approve for the max of all they were wanting for. And so the committee approved 65% of all of the requests of all the committee or of all the entities that applied. And so there were a lot of worthy causes, a lot of things that that we are going to see a lot of people coming into town for. I guess one of the things I did want to bring up as a part of this meeting was we had Parks and Rec also apply for the TRT grant. And not that that was a negative thing, but more, I guess I want council to understand that in the past, or at least in the last few years, we haven't had Parks and Rec apply before. And they did apply out of necessity. They've applied because there was a couple of different community events that obviously uh, you know, bring people into town, or I guess entertain and make livability better here in Hermiston. And so they applied as a part of that, but a lot of it was because they didn't have enough funds to do the full operations of what they needed to do for a lot of those programs due to the budget cuts. And so I just wanted the council to be aware in there, Parks and Rec, again, like the other organizations, were granted 65% of what their request was. But Parks and Rec ended up competing with some of these other nonprofits or other organizations out there. And again, all of them worthy causes. The entire committee decided to all grant the 65%. But that's just one thing I just wanted council to be aware of, that because as a result of that, they ended up applying there, and there just wasn't as many funds to do all the things that they wanted to do programmatically. I'm sure this is going to come down the pike too. I think Parks and Rec is also interested, and there's been community conversations about us taking the lead on the 3-on-3 tournament that has existed here in Hermiston for a while. And so just things like this are going to take more dollars in order for Parks and Rec to be able to fund all these activities that ultimately improve our livability here. And so I just wanted to bring that up. We do have the 1% extra TRT tax that we as a council approved. And so we do expect there to be more funds to be able to distribute to more nonprofits the next year. So that is a good thing. But yeah, I guess we had a lot of requests, a lot more requests than we do normally. And we were happy to be able to fulfill all those requests. And so I guess I think that's really it that I had on my end. I guess I'll kick it to Chairman Mr. Kelso, or Councilor McCarthy, if there's, I guess, anything additional. But we had a good meeting, fairly long meeting, but it's always a really good meeting and good committee to be a part of. So yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got.
Councilor McCarthy.
I just want to add that I am not appointed as of yet to that committee. I attended just because I'm interested, so I was not a voting member in that meeting. I do intend to ask to appointment for that committee for next year.
Heads up.
Me too.
Wow. Okay,
Well, that's why I attended, because I wanted.
noted. Okay, any other committee liaison reports? Ms. Drum.
We met, the Hispanic Advisory Committee met on June 17th, and we had presentations from Agape House. And we also got to learn that they are feeding 3,970 folks a month. And that equates to 1,190 families. And one of the questions that they were asking was about the backpacks, or, they talked about the backpack program that they partner up with the schools to be able to provide meals for students for the weekends. And so one question that they had was about, what about the summertime when school is not in session, if there was going to be a backpack program? And I think they were going to look into that. But the committee wants to put on, I think Councilor Barron has mentioned it in the past, the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. And I think they're going to be having conversations with the city manager to find a location, like iron out a date, a specific date, because they were thinking about Festival Street, September 22nd. But if the weather is being so unpredictable, where could it be where they could pivot, at the last minute in case the weather gets awful and they have to do it indoors. So those are some of the things that we discussed. And I believe that they're going to meet in July, but it's going to be like an offline so that they can talk more about the celebration for the Heritage Month.
Okay. Any other committee liaison reports? Okay, seeing none. Council President's report, that's me. got to participate in the Eastern Oregon Economic Summit here a couple days ago. Myself and Ms. Morgan, Smith, Counselor Linton, Counselors Meyer and Hardin, and we all were there in some form or fashion or another during the 2-day deal. First day we got to go on tours in both Umatilla County and Morrow County and the ports and some of the areas that they serve, and in some of the things that are going on. We got a tour of Morehouse Apartments and the work that they're doing at that place. Very nice setup. I mean, I've literally watched the building being built, so like first time I've been inside it though. I mean, I live across the street, so. First time I got to go on the front of the dam. I mean, literally on the front of the dam, right next to the spillway. That was
That was
kind of,
pretty cool.
kind of daunting almost, you know, you seeing all that water coming down. I mean, obviously I've been in the water once or twice, but that much water moving at that fast, that's little unnerving. So, but there was a lot of good conversation. We had numerous elected officials and members of the community from this area and other areas, legislators from Salem and all points, both east and west and south from here. Not many from the north. Weird. But a lot of good conversations taking place, a lot of good information being spread around. The next one, next year's is scheduled to be at Treasure Valley Community College down in Ontario. So if you can, it's put on by the League of Women Voters, I believe it is.
Eastern Oregon
And
Women's Coalition.
Yeah, okay, that what he said. But names. So, but it was a very well put together. A lot of work went into it, and the folks that were involved with putting that together are to be commended, to say the least. And I appreciated everybody that attended from we were very well represented, so it was very nice to see everybody that was able to go there. Beyond that, I didn't write myself notes of anything else I needed to bring up, so I'll pass it along. Council reports.
Oh, I wanted to say something about.
Well, then you go right ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. I wanted to say that that was a very good committee or program to be a part of. And, you know, there's an old saying, it's not what you know sometimes, but who you know. And their issues are different as the bigger cities than ours as a smaller place. And so being able to meet the people that can say, hey, we've been over there, we've seen what's going on, we know what's happening, they need this, and when we request something, we're more likely to, if it's available, to get that. So it was a great experience, and I learned quite a few things being a part of it. And also, I'm hoping that everybody gets the opportunity to go next year, if you can go, because it'll give you a chance. A lot of legislator people showed up, and that was a good thing. And I'm not a big socialite, but I did my best. I'm a loner, and it's like, oh, boy. So you guys got to go.
Mr. McCarthy.
Just a reminder, well, first, put my chamber hat on for a moment. If you subscribe to the Hermiston Chamber of Commerce newsletter, they've just started a program called kind of like a lunch break that they do at rotating businesses. That newsletter said that they'll be meeting at Desert Lanes. They've had to issue a correction. They'll be at OMG Burgers tomorrow from 1 to 2:30. It's a chance for you to get in touch with the chamber executive team, with the board, learn about what a chamber does, kind of just get your questions answered. We should be doing that about every week through the summer, and that's tomorrow at OMG Burgers 1 to 2:30. Also, before we meet next, we're going to have some fireworks being let off at the Butte. I don't know when burning is going to be happening, but make sure you are attending. There'll be the Stars and Stripes celebration down at that park, and fireworks off at 10 o'clock. The radio station at 93.7 FM will be playing patriotic music along with that. So make sure wherever you're at in Hermiston, turn your radios on. And then one other quick chamber announcement is that I know many of you often attend the summer mixer event that the chamber does at Bennett Botanical Gardens. That date is the 18th of July. It'll be at 6:30. Tickets available by emailing or calling the Chamber of Commerce. And or you could also speak with your friendly neighborhood chamber board member. I am one of them, and we can point you in the right direction. I think it's $40 for a ticket, and that'll be an evening of fun and entertainment. And I'm not entirely sure what the program consists of, since I'm not on our event committee, but I know that it's one of our more popular events that we do each year.
Okay, July 18th. July, 4th of July is coming up. 6th of July is coming up. There's 8th of July. All these days.
Oh, my gosh.
Lots of things going on. Yes, I know. Captain Obvious, right? Any others? Mr. Brown?
I just wanted to give a shout out to the library and Mr. Rose. I went to a library embroidery event. It was actually pretty cool. Got to make a little embroidery pattern on my canvas. So haven't really tried it out, and I saw it on the Hermiston Live event. So I was like, you know what, I'll try it out. And so it was pretty cool. So I want to give a shout out to that, and also to all the fathers in the room. Sorry, but happy late Father's Day to all the fathers in the room. So. About it. That's all I got.
Okay. How about this? There we go. Somebody from this side of the room.
And as the spouse of someone who attended the library event of the cross stitching thing, yes, it was very enjoyable. I enjoyed seeing the outcome of my spouse's endeavors in cross stitching. Note to self: always let the paint dry before you take the paper off. But yeah, they do have functions for adults, so be sure you keep an eye on the library calendar, because they try and really gear things for everyone. Yeah, my spouse had a final time, and we got quite the chuckle out of it.
Nothing? Okay. Well, with that, we go to the Youth Advisory Report. Ms. Viles? City Manager Report.
All I have is just, I'll be leaving on Wednesday for a little bit of vacation, so I'll be out out of the office for about a week and a half. So Mark will be capably handling things.
So, Mr. Morgan, coup time?
Not me.
All right. So, anybody else, anything for the good order? We're adjourned.